Welcome back to this deep dive. Today we're really zeroing in on that little voice inside our heads.
Hmm.
You know, the one that isn't always, well, the kindest. That negative self-talk.
Yeah, that voice. We all kind of wrestle with it, don't we? To some degree.
Absolutely. And it can seriously put a lid on what we think we're capable of, what we even try.
Yeah, it really can. It's that internal critic that, if we're not really paying attention, it can somehow become the loudest voice in the room.
Even if the room is just our own head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this isn't some, like, rare condition. It's something most of us deal with, maybe daily.
Right. So our mission, our goal for this deep dive today is pretty clear. We want to get under the hood of this negative self-talk,
Okay.
explore where it actually comes from, how to spot it when it happens, and probably most importantly, give you some real strategies.
Some tools to manage it?
Yeah, tools to manage it, maybe turn down the volume a bit on that inner critic.
Makes sense. So thinking about negative self-talk,
Yeah.
maybe think of it as that constant internal monologue, the one whispering doubts, limitations.
That mental soundtrack of self-doubt.
That's a good way to put it. You can play on repeat,
Yeah.
and it affects everything from like small decisions to the big opportunities we might just avoid altogether.
And it's fascinating how sneaky it can be.
Right.
It's not always shouting, "You're terrible, you'll fail." Sometimes it's much quieter.
More subtle.
Yeah, like, maybe stick to what you know. Don't try that new thing. It's probably too ambitious.
It doesn't sound that harsh on the surface.
No, but it still kind of chips away at your confidence, keeps you stuck.
That's a really key point. It often disguises itself, like it's just being practical or even protective.
Oh, I'm just being realistic.
Exactly, or I'm just trying to protect myself from disappointment. You might think you're being cautious looking at the pitfalls,
But really,
but really you could just be building roadblocks before you even take the first step. It's so limiting.
okay, so let's dig into the why then. Where does this critic actually come from? It's not like we're born with it, right?
No, definitely not. This inner voice, it develops
Yeah.
over time. Often it's rooted in our early experiences.
It's childhood stuff.
Yeah, think about interactions with parents, teachers, caregivers. Even remarks that weren't intended to be critical can get internalized.
And become part of how we see ourselves.
Exactly. And also past experiences, times we failed or felt judged or embarrassed. Those can create these ingrained negative thought patterns.
Like echoes.
Yeah, like echoes that our inner voice just keeps replaying. So it's usually not some, inherent flaw in you.
Yeah.
It's more often a collection of learned responses, things we picked up.
That feels helpful, seeing it as learned behavior, not just who I am.
Right. It gives you some power back.
So, okay, we kind of know what it is, maybe where it comes from. How can someone listening start to, like, actually recognize it day to day? What forms does it usually take?
Well, there are definitely some common patterns, some usual suspects, you could say.
Sure.
One really common one is what the source material calls the catastrophizer.
Ah, the catastrophizer. This is the voice that takes a tiny issue and blows it way out of proportion.
Totally. It immediately jumps to the absolute worst case, most extreme negative outcome, even for, like, a minor challenge.
Right. The master of what ifs gone totally wild. Like, you make a small typo in an email and suddenly you're convinced you'll be fired and homeless by Friday.
Precisely. The material had that great, if slightly dramatic example. If I mess up this presentation, I'll lose my job, never work again, and end up living in a van down by the river.
Okay, maybe a bit extreme, but the pattern is clear.
It's that irrational leap. Small potential mistake to absolute life-ruining disaster. That's the catastrophizer.
Then there's the comparer. Oh
Yeah.
boy, I think this one hits home for a lot of us.
Especially now.
Yeah, with social media everywhere, this is the voice constantly measuring us against other people.
And always finding us lacking, always coming up short. And social media definitely pours fuel on that fire. We see these, carefully curated highlight reels,
Just the good stuff.
just the good stuff.
Yeah.
The successes, the perfect vacations, the happy families. And comparer just pipes up. See? Look at them. They've got it all figured out. Why don't you?
It's so easy to forget you're comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's movie trailer.
Exactly. It's a rigged comparison from the start. You have to remember, it's rarely the full, unedited picture.
So true. Okay, and the third one mentioned was the perfectionist.
Ah, yes. The
Yeah.
perfectionist.
I feel like a lot of driven people, maybe high achievers, can really relate to this one.
For sure. This is the inner voice that sets the bar impossibly high.
Like astronomically high.
And nothing is ever, ever quite good enough. Even when you succeed.
Right. You get a great result and the voice goes, meh, could have done better. Or that was just luck.
It's that all or nothing thinking. It's never
Sure.
satisfied. It's this relentless chase for some unattainable standard.
That just leaves you feeling like you're never measuring up, always inadequate.
Exactly. It's exhausting.
Okay, so we've got the catastrophizer, the comparer, the perfectionist. We can start to see these patterns. Now, the really big question, how do we start taking back control? It feels so automatic sometimes.
It does feel automatic. And the very first step, honestly the most crucial one, is just awareness.
Noticing it.
Just noticing it, becoming conscious of when these thoughts are happening. Start paying closer attention to that internal chatter.
Especially when you feel, what, anxious? Stress?
Yeah, or just generally down on yourself. It's about catching that voice in the act, seeing its patterns, hearing what it actually says.
Okay, so I catch it. I hear the perfectionist saying, this isn't good enough. What's next? Do I argue with it? Telling myself, stop thinking that doesn't seem to work very well.
Huh, no, probably not.
Yeah.
A direct fight often just makes it louder, right?
Yeah.
A more effective thing to try is to ask yourself a really simple but actually quite profound question.
Yeah.
Ask, would I ever say this to a friend?
Ooh. Okay. Would I say this thing I'm saying to myself to someone I care about?
Exactly. Think about it. If your inner voice is just tearing you down for a mistake in a way you would never speak to a friend or even a colleague,
That's a huge red flag.
it really highlights the double standard, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How harsh we can be with ourselves compared to others.
That immediately gives you perspective. Wow. Okay, so if the answer is, heck no, I'd never say that to my friend, then what?
Then you start to challenge it gently. Question the thought's validity.
Like fact check your inner critic.
Kind of. What's the actual evidence for this thought? Is it a fact? Or is it just an assumption, maybe based on fear or something that happened years ago?
Yeah.
And then try to reframe it. Find a different angle.
So instead of, I'm such an idiot for messing that up.
Right. Instead of that immediate sting, you could consciously shift it. Maybe do something like, okay, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
That happens. It doesn't define me. What can I actually learn from this?
So reframing, choosing a more constructive viewpoint, moving from just judging yourself to being like curious about what happened.
Exactly. Judgment versus curiosity. That's a great way to put it. Focus on learning, not just beating yourself up.
That makes a lot of sense.
Another strategy, and this one is kind of interesting from the source material, is to personify the voice.
Personify, like give it a name.
Yeah, give it a silly name. Maybe Debbie Downer or Negative Nancy or, I don't know, the Worry Wombat.
The worry wombat, I like that.
It sounds a bit odd, maybe.
A little.
But by giving it a label, especially a slightly ridiculous one, you create distance.
Ah, so it's not me, it's just Debbie Downer piping up again.
Exactly. Becomes less like this core part of you
Yeah.
and more like this annoying cartoon character that just shows up sometimes. It can diffuse its power, make it less intimidating.
True. Humor and detachment. I can see how that could work, actually. Makes it feel more manageable.
It can, yeah.
So these are techniques for like in the moment, noticing, asking the friend question, challenging, reframing, naming. What about longer term stuff? Habits or tools to build a more, positive internal environment overall.
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely practical tools you can weave into your routine. Journaling is a big one.
Writing it down.
Yeah, getting those negative thoughts out of your head and onto paper.
Yeah.
It helps you see patterns, identify triggers.
Things that tend to set off that inner critic.
Right. And seeing them written down can sometimes make them seem less powerful, more objective.
I can definitely see that. Getting some distance. What else?
Affirmations can be helpful too.
Okay, positive statements you repeat.
Yeah. It might feel a bit weird or unnatural at first, let's be honest.
That I can imagine.
But doing it consistently,
Yeah.
consciously repeating positive statements about yourself, it can actually start to gradually rewire some of those automatic negative pathways.
So instead of the default, I'm not good enough, you're actively practicing, I am capable, I am worthy, like training your brain.
It's exactly like training. You're intentionally focusing it. Then, of course, there's therapy,
A big one.
a really valuable resource. A good therapist can give you a safe space to dig deeper into where this self-talk comes from.
Find the roots.
Yeah, and help you develop really personalized strategies that work specifically for you.
And sometimes maybe even just talking to a trusted friend or family member.
Absolutely. Don't underestimate that. Just saying those criticisms out loud to someone who cares.
Can take away some of their power.
For sure. It gets them out of the echo chamber of your own head. Plus, you get outside perspective, support.
Makes sense. What about meditation? Is that useful here?
Hugely useful. Meditation isn't really about stopping thoughts because, well, good luck with that.
Right, impossible.
It's more about learning to observe your thoughts without getting tangled up in them, especially the negative ones.
Ah, so you see the thought, I'm going to fail, but you don't have to latch onto it and believe it instantly.
Exactly. You learn to just notice it, maybe label it thinking, and let it pass by without letting it hijack your emotions. You create a bit of space.
Becoming more of a detached observer of your own mind.
That's a perfect description. And one more, which might seem simple but is surprisingly powerful. Gratitude.
Gratitude, how does that connect?
Well, when you consciously, deliberately focus your attention on things you're thankful for, big or small, you naturally shift your focus away from what's wrong or what that inner critic is complaining about.
So less airtime for the negative voice.
Pretty much. You're filling your mental space with appreciation, which leaves less room for the negativity to dominate. It changes your overall focus.
Wow, so actively looking for the good can actually help quiet the inner critic. That's really
It
encouraging.
really is. And look, the main thing we want listeners to take away, it's so important to remember, having negative self-talk is normal.
It doesn't mean you're broken.
Not at all. It's part of being human. Everyone experiences it. It doesn't mean something is fundamentally wrong with you.
That's such a crucial point. It's easy to feel like you're the only one battling this internal voice.
So easy. But you're not alone. The real key, though, the big takeaway message is this. You are not your thoughts.
Okay, say that again.
You are not your thoughts. Just because that voice pipes up with a criticism or a doubt or a catastrophic prediction
Doesn't make it true.
doesn't make it true. Doesn't mean you have to accept it as reality. You have the power to question it, challenge it, reframe it, ultimately to reshape that whole internal narrative.
That's empowering. So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for everyone listening to consider.
Yeah, how about this? Think about those voices we discussed, the catastrophizer, the comparer, the perfectionist. Which one, or maybe which ones, feel most familiar to you?
Okay, identify your go-to critic.
Yeah. And then think about one small, really actionable step you could take today, or maybe the next time that specific voice shows up. What's one little thing you could do to challenge it?
Could be as simple as just noticing it, right, and asking that friend question.
Exactly. Or just asking, hey, is there maybe another way to look at this situation? Just one small step.
That feels doable, a good place to start.
For sure. Remember, changing this internal dialogue, it's a process. It's a journey, not like a switch you flip.
Be patient with yourself.
Be kind, be patient, and notice the small wins along the way as you learn to, manage that inner critic.